Hey, most people take the safe route, college, degree, corporate job. Raphael Cortez, no. He became one of the youngest firefighters in Yuma County at 19 years old. Then he launched a medical transport business in his early 20s. And then he started flipping real estate deals before most people picked a major. He's an organizational psychologist with a master's degree in industrial psychology, and he has built multiple real estate businesses using systems most gurus can't even spell. On top of that, he's coached hundreds of wholesalers into having real sustainable businesses. He built a massive YouTube following, and he has become the go-to voice in our industry for turning chaos into absolute cash flow. This is not theory. This is pressure-tested, battlefield-built business from a guy who's lived it. So if you want mindset, if you want systems and strategy to scale like a savage, this is your episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Closers Club. All right, guys, welcome back here today with my good friend, Raphael Cortez, absolute rock star investor out of Phoenix, Arizona. Man, appreciate you jumping on today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show, man. It's an honor.
Cool. So you're a really big deal in our industry and just a leader in so many different areas, but
stop it. Tell me more.
Oh, come on now. You know it's true, man. You know it's true. So I'm super honored to have you here. But just for the people that don't know you, let's real quick, little backstory. I know you were a firefighter, a little bit of psychologist, lots of different things. Kind of where did you start and how was that transition? What was it that got you into real estate?
Real estate, I got into it by accident. So when I was going to college in my early years, 17, 18, 19 years old, actually 18, at 19, I became a firefighter. But through the years of college and high school, I would work construction during the summertime just to make some cash, right? So I knew how to frame houses and masonry and all the trades, did a little bit of everything and whatnot, right? So I got exposed to all that stuff early on. You went through college. I joined the fire department at 19. I was there for several years.
Dude, what made you think running into burning buildings was a good idea? Was it just young guy adrenaline exuberance or what?
Yes, and we're already in Arizona, so everything's pretty much burning 24/7 during the summertime. So
feels like it, right?
Yeah, you have a competitive advantage there, I think.
It's going into the fire where it gets cool.
I mean, we have 118-degree weather in the regular here. Yeah. So yeah, but there wasn't a lot to do. I come from a small town, so there wasn't a lot of stuff that you would get into, right? You're either gonna be a cop, a correctional officer, a teacher, or a firefighter. So the nice options or the good options were very limited. There wasn't a lot of entrepreneurial thinking and that type of stuff. I was born and raised in Yuma, Arizona. I grew up in a small town south of that called San Luis, and and you get exposed to what you see, right? And then you adopt those beliefs and perspectives and whatnot. So there wasn't a lot, right? Anyways, I ended up having a conversation with a person who became a good friend of mine afterwards. He ended up being the chief of the fire department. Okay. By accident, just met him by random, and then it seemed like a good idea. Next week I joined the fire academy and started doing that. Right. So I pulled the trigger really fast. I've always been known to kind of, shoot first and aim later. So,
and this was after you got out of college.
Right. Yeah. No, this is me right out of high school.
Oh, out of high school. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Right out of high school. So I went into the fire academy, started doing all that stuff. Fast forward, 19 years old, I get hired right out of the academy to work the fire department. And at the fire department, I feel like I met one of my first role models, right? Okay. People that I looked up to. My old captain, Fornoff. So shout out Fornoff. It's what I did was really shadow him. I would just pay attention to the way that he would do things, and he was always thinking outside the box. He was thinking about side businesses and things like that. So I'm young, I'm absorbing everything from the fire department, but I'm also getting exposed to new ways of thinking, and I think that just kind of it helped me see the world in a different light. It was like, yeah, you're right. We do have 24 hours off every other day. That's a lot of time. I'm just sitting on my butt. I should be doing something because I'm 19, 20, 21 years old.
I think that's such an important lesson because so many kids are out there just kind of bumblefucking their way through life, just not paying attention. There are probably 100 opportunities that go by them all the time, people that they come in contact with, and you were smart enough to latch onto that.
Dude, Dov The rule says the opportunity of a lifetime comes along once a week, right? We're just too asleep to see him sometimes.
Yeah, it's also the best.
And yeah, I mean, I was doing plenty of not productive stuff. I mean, I was spending all my weekends and money in San Diego traveling and doing stuff that a normal 19-year-old kid with a decent job is gonna do.
Yeah.
So I was having a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, but I also I started working on my first business, which was a non-emergency medical transportation business. Again, I go back to the stuff that I was seeing that was immediate to my world.
Sure.
I was a firefighter. We would do transports to and from medical appointments to take somebody to dialysis sometimes, right? And so it's you're taking an emergency unit out of service to go do that when a rig with a stretcher can do it. That's not an emergency thing.
Yeah.
So we had a handful of companies in town that would do that. Honestly, the quality was pretty bad. Like you beat up old vans, the people were raggedy. Like it was just so I mean, I saw a gap there in service. And anyway, I started looking into that. I figured that if I was going to do something like that, I had to do it in a bigger area. So I moved from Yuma to Phoenix. That's when I moved over here. I left the fire department and because it was a conflict of interest at the time. So I left the fire department and launched that business over here. And
so you left the fire department, went from Yuma to Phoenix just to open up this business. Did you do any research? Like, is this a thing? Do people need it? Or?
No. So I went through the whole shebang, right? I went to the Small Business Administration and talked to this first, a guy that ever gave me a notion of business, biz ops. He was like, you got to complete this business plan before you do anything. I was like, all right, great. So I took that as like, if I complete this, I'm going to succeed in business. And I tell you, man, I spent, I don't know, maybe 8 months building that thing. The business plan itself didn't do a damn thing, but the stuff that I learned along the way, right?
Well, it made you think through the process, right?
Right. I think what it did was shift my thought process. That's what it did. It turned me into a problem solver for the sake of accomplishing that business goal. Because nothing in that business plan went according to plan. Right. But I adopted the ways of thinking, right? So that mixed in with the SOPs at the fire department and all the exposure that I was getting. I mean, all that stuff helped. I can't deny it. So I moved over here, launched the first business, bought one vehicle out on auction because I had spent all my money in San Diego, going back and forth and drinking with my buddies. So I did that and I started just operating as a solo operator. I went and applied for a license and I became just rabid about getting contracts.
Really?
And I ended up landing some good contracts with the state, right? Yeah. So now I had to, come up with more vehicles and employees and hiring protocols and training processes and all kinds of stuff. So
all of a sudden you were thrust into this business. What do you think it was about you, other than that first mentor, that made you see that bigger picture? Or do you think it's just something that you're born with innately, right? Because I do see a common theme in entrepreneurs, right? Especially visionaries, where even me, when I worked in retail, hardware company retail, I always I could be the president. I could be I could be the vice president. I could do something better, right? And I just think, is there something in us, or do you think it's nature versus nurture, I guess, right? Is it people we come in contact with, a book, or just do you think the way we're born?
I think that once you get exposed to something that really, takes a hold of you, you can't unsee it. You know what I mean? And I feel like early on, I saw the possibility of business. I saw the possibility of betting on myself. I was like, man, if I can call my own shots and I don't have to show up and work for anybody. I'm good at doing, like, if I have a task, I'll give it my best, right? But it's not my favorite place to take, orders from anybody. I mean, I've always been a kind of like an entrepreneur in that sense, right? And I feel like when it kind of broke me, right? Like, especially when I got the first proof of concept, when I got my first client in through the door in that particular business, is like, oh, wow, I actually have a business. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting paid by the state. How cool is it? I just got to grow this thing. Right. Yeah. So from that point forward,
did you ever just like imposter syndrome? Like, why?
Dude. Yeah,
why are they letting me do this? They're trusting me with old handicapped people.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't think that if you're humble enough, I don't think that ever goes away.
Yeah.
Right. And I was taught to be humble. I've never been an egotistical maniac or anything like that. But it's you have to get to a point where you understand your value, you understand your strengths, you understand your weaknesses. Yeah. And then you take all that info. It's like, all right, cool. I'm going to bet on myself in this realm. And to me, that was a big thing. But I feel like what happened was I just got exposed to good people at the beginning, and I paid attention to what they were doing because nobody took me under their wing. They're like, it's not like they handheld me. I would just pay attention, listen to their conversations, and I was like, oh, he's moving in the stock marketplace. Let's go look at that. Oh, he bought a rental. Like, oh, okay, cool. How do I do that? And just questioning, moving forward on things that I would see along the way. So
I think that's a great lesson that, and we've all heard the Instagram reels that like nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to make your life better, but just pay attention and be aware. Right. I love that. I love that saying that life-changing opportunities come by once a week. That's fantastic.
Brother. It's so true. Right. We have so many people to learn from. I think I was really closed off to collaborating. Mm-hmm. That's why I've never been like the best person at asking for help. So to me, it's like, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm just going to pay attention. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's not the best course of action, honestly. No. Like when you're in trouble, when you're stuck, when you're, we see that on the masterminds now. Now I take it to heart. But back then it was like, I'm just going to pay attention and try to figure it out on my own. So a lot of it was done in silence. But it was me just, with my feelers and my radars, looking out there. Yeah. But I think that's what it is. Now we have the ability to learn from whoever we want to learn. Just pick up a book, pick up a podcast, go to meetups, man. There's hundreds of meetups in every metro area on any given topic that you want to learn about. All you got to do is get off your butt, turn Netflix off for a little bit, and then, go find your interest. Yeah. Right. So the cool thing about it too is that I knew what I wanted as a next step. Okay, like what I want to do is I want to launch this thing. I don't know the steps to it, but like the next step to that thing is me going having a conversation with the Small Business Administration. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, let's go get a meeting. So the next thing was just, you don't have to have the whole pathway carved out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, yes, 100%. I think that is, there are some people who get so worried about, well, what am I going to do in 8 months? Well, you only got to worry about the next step. The example that a mentor gave to me is if I was going to drive from Florida to California, I don't have to know what I'm going to do in Arizona. I just got to know how to get the fuck out of Florida. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I just need the next couple of steps. And then when I get there, then I'll figure out the next one. And then I'll figure out the next one, because honestly, it's never going to turn out exactly like you plan anyways. You have to just accept that there's going to be a little bit of chaos.
Facts. Yeah. And I think that's the key. You become a problem solver. That's entrepreneurial, just like basics, right? Yeah. So to kind of fast forward, I did that for a while, launched that business. I ended up selling it in 2014. Did you? I did well. By the time I sold it, I had a large fleet. I had just under around 40 plus employees. And so how old were you? This is 2014. That's 11 years ago. Wow. So 31. Yeah.
That's impressive.
So I did that, right? 31 years old. And I was already messing around with fixing and flipping because I was able to put some cash together. It was like, okay, the thing I know how to do is swing a hammer. So I'm going to go do a flip. Right. And I did the flip, right? It was like, oh, cool. I'm going to go fix the kitchen. I'm going to go fix the thing. Yeah. Worst mistake ever.
And we've all been there. We've all scraped popcorn and laid tile. Terrible idea.
I bought the property high. I didn't leverage anything. I did all the work myself, so it took me forever. I think on that first deal, actually, I ended up making just under $2,000. Okay. And my first impression was like, how can people live off of this? Like, this is brutal. It's like $2,000 for 6 months of work. This is just
not a good plan.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I did that a couple of times, did better on the second one. And then I saw an assignment fee on the third deal in the settlement statement. And it's like, what is this assignment fee for $18,000? Yeah. So I called the guy that got me the property, and it was his LLC. He was like, hey, dude, Ivan, his name's Ivan. Ivan, I'm seeing the settlement statement, and there's an $18,000 fee in here. What is that? He's like, well, bro, and he got all nervous. He's like, bro, that's what you paid me for the property. It's an assignment fee. So it's me finding the property, and then I sell you the contract. And like, seriously? He's like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. He's like, he was about to apologize. He's like, no, it's okay. I don't care. Like, how do I do that? So he gave me do that. Yeah, teach me how to do that. Yeah. So he gave me a podcast. I started listening to Todd Toback. Then I listened to Sean Terry on that podcast. And I feel like from that point forward, man, the rest is history. I started following Sean based on the stuff that he was teaching on the podcast, I closed a couple of deals. I signed up for his email marketing. For his email list in town, because he's in Maricopa County. And one day he shoots out this email looking for an acquisitions guy.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So he's looking for an acquisitions guy, and I'm in the process of closing the sale on the transaction of this company that I've built and I've been running for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn this, the wholesale side of things, the business side of things. Is like, man, this guy is, I mean, at this point he's proven, he's tested and proven by what I did, a couple of deals closed. Like, I want to learn from that guy.
Right.
So I applied, and I went to work for him as acquisitions I ended up staying there for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So I was his main acquisitions guy. He puts me on stage in the Flip to Freedom event, Extreme Freedom, in 2015. He puts me on stage and start talking about my whole closing process, negotiation stuff. I was bringing 1.2 mil a year on assignment fees, and I mean, I got obsessed with it, man. From that point forward, you start consulting, you start doing other things. I went back to college. I got my degrees in psychology and organizational psychology, and just started applying everything. So
you don't like have much downtime, it sounds like.
I don't do well with downtime. I have to be at the beach. That's what I found, dude. You put me in the forest, I'm still going to be thinking business. Put me, I don't know, anywhere. But if you put me in the beach, it's like, relaxing. What happened? I forget about everything.
That's the Mai Tais and the margaritas, though, bro. That's
dude, I'm
not necessarily the beach.
Whatever it takes. So since then, I mean, up to this point, I've done over maybe 1,200 deals at this point, and I'm a real estate broker, so I have a brokerage here in town. I have an active wholesaling business. We do national virtual wholesaling, and that's what I coach as well in my education program, and then I have an organizational psychology practice. So that's the sum of it.
So let's go back to Sean. So you worked for him for 3 years. I know he runs a great operation. We did his transactions for a long time. Well, again, another leap of faith, right? I'm going to go out and do this on my own and do all of it like that. Again, scary. Like, what makes you, why not just stay there and make a bunch of money with Sean?
It's the idea was always that, and I was very transparent with him when we met. This is a hiring appointment. I show up in a suit and the whole 9 yards, right? And which, I mean, now I know that it's not a thing, but apparently I'm impressed because I got hired on the spot.
Dude, I remember when I was out looking for jobs as a kid, I remember I had a shirt and a tie, and my dad told me, my dad was a military guy. You show up dressed for the job, and now people come in here and
dress for the job. I guess the reason I did that was I was used to dealing with government offices all the time. So running, and getting contracts with the government, like, you had to, step up your game in terms of appearance and the vehicles and everything, right? So anyways, I did that, but no, I mean, the original thing, or the original plan, was to go in and then give it my best for a while, and I knew I was going to move on. And I told that to Sean on the first meeting. He asked me, he goes, well, I mean, you seem like a really good candidate, but I don't want to, have somebody that's going to come in and then leave in 6 months. And I told him, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the best I got for at least a year. I'll guarantee you a year. And we'll go from there. And he said, okay, cool. I can do a year. A year's fine. I was like, perfect. Boom. And then
in hindsight, now we know most people don't ever stay a year. So a year.
Dude, I'm telling you, especially in acquisitions. That first week, just to go on the story mode here for a little longer. That first week, I locked up 6 contracts.
No way.
6 contracts. Yeah.
Wow. Everything was virtual and remote, right? You weren't.
No. I was going to face to face.
Oh, you were.
So okay. That was here in town, and I was doing face-to-face appointments.
Oh, gotcha.
Around 25 appointments a week, because I on average I was going to 5 appointments a day. I mean, he had a massive budget on marketing. I was capturing all the leads. It was like, man, this is going to be my shortcut to the learning curve. So, anyways, first week, I go through a couple of training modules, and then I start, pounding the streets and going to seller appointments. At this point, dude, Steve Trang is out there, locking up deals. Brent Daniels is out there locking up deals. Like it's we're the guys on the street. And the lock up 5 deals my first week. I come back like a hero on Friday. On Monday we take a look at all of them. We couldn't keep any of them, dude. They were retail.
Oh,
they were horribly
all bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of broke me a little bit, but taught me a lesson. I went back. I got my first contract the next week, and that actually sold and stuff like that. So but I mean, it was a pretty cool journey.
Yeah.
Going from the beginning of it, fire to ending up in the wholesale space. I mean, I'm telling you, I would have started with wholesaling if I could do it all over again.
Yeah. No, wholesaling, it's absolutely fantastic. So easy to start there. For me, I started, I had done some fix and flips and had a real job. And then, 2008, 2009, it was the end of the world in Florida. And that's how we ended up in Chattanooga with no money. Like I did the burn the boats thing, came to Chattanooga. I had a wife, 2 boys, 3 fat dogs. The worst decision. I don't ever tell anybody to do it. It was fucking stupid. Luckily it worked out though, because I was just too dumb to quit. But yeah. So you worked for Sean for 3 years. You're doing a little bit of speaking kind of stuff. And then, you're going to go out and do it on your own. And that like, did you run the same type of model? Was it a local model, or did you kind of transition into more virtual?
No, I was still doing local wholesaling. And I mean, cold calling was always from the get go, right? Like with him, I was kind of pampered because I was just capturing the leads, like an acquisitions guy, right? Like I didn't know anything about lead gen. I didn't really care for dispo. I mean, all I had one job, is get a signature on the contract and then have the numbers match the thresholds, right? It's simple. So I was like, cool, I can figure that out. And then when I stepped out on my own, I was like, man, there's so many lanes to this thing.
Right. Well, that's kind of where I was going with that question is because I've had this happen before with acquisitions, people of mine that wanted to step out and, the acquisitions person, they get really good at that one little nugget, but there's at a minimum, there's marketing, dispo, and then transactions and closings, right? There are other parts of the business.
I have 6 stages. I mean, I came up with and I'm actually going to break this down in one of the future mastermind sessions. But I have an organizational matrix that I built. And there's 6 stages to the business, right? You have the sourcing, you have the converting, acquisitions, dispositions, measuring, and improving. So all those different legs. I mean, I was working in this the third stage of it, which is the acquisitions portion of it. But everything else has their own, its own SOPs, its own processes, employees, responsibilities, accountability, everything, right? And I mean, I feel like the thing that helped me through that, I kind of knew what to expect. I did 2 things. Sean let me play with the company. So I came in and I built a scorecard when we were when I was working for him. I was like, Sean, can I build a scorecard and just with KPIs and metrics and tracking and all these things? And I went to town on that using my experience in biz ops, right, from the transportation business. Transportation has a lot of logistics. So I had to build a lot of systems and trainings and protocols in that space. So I had that mindset already kind of pre-wired over the last 8 years. That helped. And then I started seeing the I guess the nuts and bolts of the business when I started getting into accountability and SOPs and everything else, right? And when I got out of there, I had a notion of it, and then I started doing it on my own. It's like, okay, there's things to tweak that I was not seeing. But I feel like most people that venture out, right, they're expecting, okay, I'm gonna pick up the phone, make 10 calls, and land 2 deals.
Gonna be rich.
It's not like that. Yeah. It's not like that. So I feel like upfront expectations are important when you're jumping into something like that. Normally, and you mentioned acquisitions, which is pretty interesting, but when you have behavioral profiles, the person that gravitates to negotiation and acquisitions tends to be more of that driver personality, right? That gung-ho, let's get shit done and type of deal, usually on that sales role, right? As opposed to somebody who'd be gravitating towards transaction coordination, right?
Different personality type.
Totally different personality, but they're going to be looking for something different, right? And usually have that, that go-getter mentality or the, I'm going to crush it. This is easy. I can take it, without the upfront thinking of the what to really expect because of the natural modalities of the driver personality or the maverick if you're using another assessment.
Right. I always say it's sort of like, we want to jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when you have a track record of doing that. So I think that's what happens, right? And then because I've seen it, I've had the same issue where somebody comes in, they're great at closing, but now I kind of know what to expect. Listen, get really, really good here, and then if you want to move on or whatever, that that's fine. But just I do the same thing. Give me some time. Like I don't want to do training and then 3 months, 6 months, and whatever. And it's all verbal. I mean, people leave, or I fire people if they're not a fit. But you do have that. I feel like that itch sometimes that will hit an acquisitions person to come in, and it's not just acquisitions, but for the most part it is. They'll venture out, try to do their thing, and then they'll come back. A year later, 6 months later, it's like, hey, can I jump back into acquisitions?
I always try to explain to people, because you hear that, right? You're on the sales floor, you're talking to people where, so and so, my friend is wholesaling, and I'm like, I know they're just testing the waters. I'm like, hey, that's great. Just so you know, like, there's just a lot more to this than the little cog that you're doing. There's the marketing and front end money, and then acquisitions, and then dispo and underwriting, and and all of the different things. What in your business, what do you use? Because you talked about different personality types. Like, what do you use to sort of assess these people to make sure you're putting the right person in the right spot?
I built my own assessment. I mean, it's based off a disc. It's based off a disc, and so I have like my internal forms for hiring. They already have the stuff that I'm looking for. And I'll place people, like I'll look specifically for certain characteristics for certain roles, right? Just because I know longevity is there. But it's all driven off of a disc, which is the driver, interactive, supportive, and calculating personality. So those four main pillars, I mean, everything is going to be a subset of that. You kind of have primary behavioral tendencies, secondary behavioral tendencies, and then a broad array of mixes underneath, which is what the other assessments it's kind of blend together, and then they put their own names to it. But at the end of it, I feel like the easiest way to understand somebody's behavioral model is through disc, because it's simple. It's four things that you're just kind of identifying.
What's your disc profile?
DI.
I thought I would be DI too. I'm ID.
Yeah, ID. Yeah.
Shocking. I don't feel like the influencer side, but
So the driver side always gets the better of me. So I'm the interactive side, the people person side, and all that. It's most people think that I sit on an analytical role just because of the systems and processes that I built. But the reason I built that, so we have learned behaviors, right? Like we're gonna adopt skill sets and things. But I know, for example, putting together an SOP, if I work on that for more than 4 hours, bro, my head is just fried. It's fried. It's just not my strong suit. It doesn't mean that we can't do stuff like that. It has nothing to do with intellect. It's not just, you just get more worn out because you're adapting to a personality that's unnatural, and that adaptation causes mental exertion.
I like making SOPs. I hate implementing them. That's where
exactly
my COO does that stuff. Like I'm great at like, hey, let's break down the process. Let's make it work. But like after that, I'm out. Like now it's up to you. I'm gonna go on to the next thing. The next thing I can create.
Build and create that creativity, element. But no, and I think that's huge, right? Not just for hiring. I mean, obviously we use it a lot in business for hiring, but not just for that. I think for interaction, like this is one thing that I see over and over again. You hire somebody based on a disc or an assessment or whatever. That person fits the bill. Okay, cool. Let's plug them in. And then you forget to talk to that person that way. You forget, right, that you have to be a little bit more analytical with somebody who's going to be on the TC side. There's somebody who's going to be, they're going to be more adamant about checks and balances and details when you want to fly through shit like in 3 seconds. So we have to use that as leaders. We have to use that as heads of company. Understand, like, man, if I want to get a point across, how do I talk to this person? How do I convey my message in a way that they're going to understand it, right? And that's the 80% that we never deploy. It's I'm telling you, and I say we because I used to do that stuff all the time. It's like, man, I understand how this person is going to process the info better. And I'm still, speaking my language as opposed to adapting.
I always do, well, 2 things. So for all of our coordinators, we do this probably about quarterly as we bring in new people, but we have them all take the DISC assessment, and I have a little video that they watch. It's actually a really good video. It's just like British guy talking about the disc thing. It's a really great little video. And I tell them, like, I don't care what your disc assessment is. I pretty much have a feel for where they're all going to come in. I said, but the reason I want you to understand this is I want you to understand how to talk to our clients, because our clients are typically 100% opposite of you, you know? So I don't want you to get upset, you know, because from a transaction coordination side, I'm like, you know, our clients can be kind of banana heads. I'm a banana head because I'm a wholesaler, right? So I get, like, I'm that guy. I'm like, but I want you to understand who they are, and for you to understand why you guys are different and not get upset with them, right? You're just a different personality type. There's 4 different types. Like, that's it. And the other thing I always like to ask people on my team is, how do you like to be coached? Like, how do you like me to interact with you? And, you know, some people are like, just tell it to me. Just give it to me.
Give me bullet points.
Beat me with the stick. Just tell me so I can go on about my day. And other people are like, well, you know, I'd like to really understand it. And so just try to get a feel for who your people are.
Yeah. And that's vital, man. I mean, if bad hires are way more expensive than just the regular payroll. We know that. Yeah. By the way, I have a training that I teach my employees. I can send that to you if you want it. On behavioral profils and discs.
So I love it. I was just thinking, as we're listening, man, you should do this disc profile video. Post that on YouTube, man. It'd be fantastic.
You know what? Yeah, I probably should. But I'll send you the one I run my employees through. It's good. It's comprehensive. I just make it easy to understand.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's not, you know, I feel like as far as taking the leap into the space and whatnot, there's not a lot of science to it. We just, you know, figure out what the next step is, and then figure out the step after that. And yeah, sometimes you're going to be back. So, you know, you're going to make a bad choice, or, you know, for lack of understanding or experience, you take a step back and then reroute. But I mean, if you do that long enough, I mean, you're going to find yourself in the front of the line eventually.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, the example I give, yesterday or today, we were talking about the same thing. I said, you know, from Chattanooga, where we're at, if we're going from here to Nashville, you know, I think it's 24, 27. I don't even know what the name of the highway is, but there's always a wreck, and there are always these detours. But you know, we just always know that the North Star is we're trying to get to Nashville.
Right.
There's always going to be these things, obstacles, detours, whatever, where we get off a little bit off track, and just how do we get back onto the highway and keep going in that straight line just as quick as we can. So yeah, being an entrepreneur is going to be tough. There are days I say we get hit in the face with a baseball bat 7 out of 10 days. 3 days
I'm
great.
telling you,
7 are just rough though.
And some verticals are easier than others.
Yeah.
Your vertical, I do not envy it.
You know Corey Geary, when I first presented this at an Investor Lift summit, I'm like, guys, I'm thinking about starting this a transaction coordination company. He's like, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. That's absolute brain damage. I'm like, I know, but I think there's a need for it.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely a need. There's a huge need for it. It's just because it's TC. To find a good TC, first off, is a pain in the ass. But it's a type of stuff that, you know, people that launch businesses don't want to do. Like, the last thing I want to do is you know, transaction coordination. However, if you don't do that part, nothing else works.
Right. And what I realized is, like with the disc, right? It's the opposite side of our personality. The whole you complete me thing, right? Like, I don't want to do it. I did it. Like, I did it. I muddled through it. And I solved problems. But man, once I found a TC and she was handling deals, man, my business exploded, because now all of my time was on the fun shit.
You know? Exactly. On the strengths, the stuff that you enjoy doing, right?
The stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, get you paid too. So and that's what I mean. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's like, man, I don't know, I'd go crazy doing TC, you know, and going like through all the nuts and bolts. Don't get me wrong, I'll go and address like certain things here and there, but like, you know, it's somebody has to take care of that for me. Otherwise it's not gonna.
Bro, we have 25 people here, and I go out there and I sit in their meetings, and I'm like, holy shit. Inside, I'm like, outside, I'm like, you guys are doing great. That's absolutely amazing. And inside, I'm like, how the fuck do you do this all day? Like, I would go out of my mind trying to do it all day. Like, people think I'm okay at being a transaction coordinator. Like, obviously it's my business, but like, I don't do the magic.
But you have passion. Like, there's you know, when you're able to enroll people that are passionate about what they do, it's just, you know, it's a different lane, right? We're not gonna I feel like understand it to that level, because it's not in our passion radar.
Right.
But people, you know, there's some people love paperwork. People love, hey, listen, just put me in a cubicle and I'll, you know, hammer shit out all day. I'll be happy by myself here. And I'll fix problems, and I'll have, like, Hannah's amazing. You know, when Yeah. So you have again, we go back to the strengths, right? But it can be one of the I feel like the most difficult things to identify as we're growing through the years in entrepreneurship, and the obstacles, the ups and downs, and everything. Identifying your strengths and the stuff that you're like, okay, this is my lane. I feel really good about this.
Yeah.
I do a really simple just kind of assessment. And I actually teach it to my REA elite students, but I'll think about the stuff that gives me energy and gives me money. Yeah. So if I'm doing an activity, right, and that activity gives me energy and I feel energized, I feel good about it, right? And you're making money, like that's the kind of shit that I need to focus on. I need to do more of that. Energy and money, right? If it gives me energy but doesn't give me money, I'm probably still gonna do it, but it's gonna be more like a hobby. I can't prioritize that, right? Yeah. Because of obvious reasons, right? But if it doesn't give me energy and it gives me money, it's gonna drain me. I gotta find a way to delegate that task. I gotta find somebody to plug into that role. So you go through the sequence of questions and you find out like what your sweet spot is.
So I know you've coached hundreds and hundreds of investors, and they've been incredibly successful. You have one of the most successful coaching programs out there. But as you're talking to new students or clients that come in, and and this is a wholesaler thing, right? It's the visionary. They wear that as a badge of honor. Like, I've got to do everything. Nobody's as smart as me. Nobody cares as much as me. Nobody, all of that, right? Because I was that guy for so many years. Like, how do you help them get past that, where they understand, hey, I can't spend the next 6 months learning PPC. Right? Yeah. It's ridiculous, right? Or I cannot be handwriting envelopes and putting stamps on them, or I can't be doing my transaction coordinating. It's dumb, right? Like, how do you help them work through that?
I usually, well, one of the things that I do is I highlight. A lot of times what happens is like they're going to be on a family trip, they're going to be doing something, and then the check hits. Mm-hmm. So I bring them back to that moment, right? Hey, listen, you remember, last month or 2 months ago, I know you're doing everything right now, but last 2 months ago, you're on vacation and then you closed on this deal, escrow closed. Do you remember that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. How would it feel to be doing more of that stuff as opposed to you in the weeds of the thing? You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily breaking a paradigm or breaking a bad habit, because it takes, I don't know, it takes a lot, right, to just kind of give your baby away.
Yeah, dude, trust me, it's hard.
Yeah, so it's one of the, when it comes to the mindset portion of it, we just go back to the moments of freedom and financial success. And I'm telling you, like, if you're if you're doing things long enough, like if you're putting you're gonna see those, you're gonna get hit with those. Yeah. I mean, shit, man. I remember the first time I was in Costa Rica, and then I see a wire come in. It's like, boom, $38,000. I was like, yes, I'm on a beach in Costa Rica. And that's like, this wire just hit. That property I hadn't seen. My team ran it. Great, right? It's like more of that stuff. So you keep going back to those moments of wins. Now, when you're first getting in, you don't have a track record yet. You can still drop wins into your bank. If it's a phone call, if it's a great conversation that you had with a seller, right? Think about that. Okay, cool. How would it feel to have that happen without you actually being in the picture and dialing out and doing the whole thing? Mm-hmm. That is one. Then the other one, I just hammer out incredibly, firm on standard operating procedures. Hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. The reason we do SOPs, and I bring that straight from the fire department. That's where I learned my process, right? At least for adherence to standard operating procedures and systems, it's because it's delegatable. When you plug somebody into, for example, lead manager role, like you're not wondering what they're going to do, right? You give them an SOP and they follow that SOP. So now they have this particular set of actions that they're going to do, how they're going to do it, what platforms they're going to be be right? And it just becomes easier to delegate. The reason more people don't delegate is because they don't know what to delegate for. That clarity is not there. So if we're able to paint that clarity, which earlier I mentioned 6 different lanes. I mean, we begin with those lanes and we just start filling in the blanks. It becomes easier to let go of that particular little section of the business. You're not letting go of the entire business. You're letting go of that particular section, right? And then the other section, then the other section. The next thing you know, you're a consultant to your business. Right. I mean, you're very much in that space. You're not actually. Pushing the paperwork and doing all the TC stuff. You know how to run that, right? But you have SOPs, you have your processes in place. So it's the same thing. I mean, I feel like when people get a taste of that, it's like, oh, this is This is better than me busting my ass.
Yeah, my life is good. I walk out in the cubicles and I can just shoot the shit with the transaction coordinators. What do you got going on? Like, dude, when they ask me a question, I'm like on top of the world that I'm giving them the answer or something. Because honestly, I it's cubicles. They're like 6 foot cubicle, and I'll be out there standing there talking to somebody, but I can hear one of them in the cubicle, and they're talking to a client, and they're coaching them through this deal, and not that they're coaches, but they're telling them how to get this deal closed. And I'm like, well, shit. Damn, that's pretty good. I don't even know that I would have thought of that. That's like they've like exceeded where I ever was. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the whole leveling up process. I mean, I feel like new degrees of understanding kick in.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it definitely came with challenges. As we built up those layers and people have stayed with us longer. One thing I explain to people is, out of 10 hires, you're going to get 4 or 5 that are going to stay with you for a little bit. Out of that 5, there's 1 or 2 who are going to be the true believers, right? That believe in the vision and want to ride with you and, want to get to that destination. And over time, you just collect those people, and those people become your core team. But as we built those up, and then, Heather's risen up from operations manager to being the COO, like there was time, maybe a year and a half ago, where they were all going in the conference room for a meeting. And I'm like, doop-de-doop-de-doo in my notebook. And one of them looked at me like, where are you going? I'm like, in the meeting. They're like, oh, this meeting isn't for you. I'm like, dude, I felt like fucking Charlie Brown. I'm like, oh.
Nobody wants to play with me.
Nobody. Yeah. I'm like, I walk back to my office. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? They're like, I don't know. Go do marketing things. I don't know. And I'm like, dude, I felt it was the most unwanted I've ever felt in my entire life.
That is such a win.
It is, man. But the first time it happens, it's like a knife in the heart. Now they have meetings all the time, and sometimes I don't even come out of my office, and they're
going to go to the park with your child.
Yeah. It's hard. It's awesome because I just left for 8 days, and the place didn't miss a beat. They didn't. Nobody called me. Nobody bothered me. It's amazing. But yeah, it's great when you get there for sure.
Yeah. No. So I think it's that's part of it, right? So you have to anchor one like the successes. You have to recognize the wins as you're going through it. You got to have SOPs and systems and processes to fall back into, because that's what speeds you cut to the front of the line faster, right? And I think the other one is, getting through. I feel like old paradigms. Listen, when we jump into business, usually. Right? Somebody jumps, hey, I want to launch my own business. Why? Because you're unhappy where you're at. There's something that I don't care what you say. You're jumping from one place to the other because that one place is not fulfilling you to every, degree that you want to be fulfilled. That's the reality of it. Right. So, and a lot of the times what I've seen is it's jumping and then from this survival mode. And you get into business with a survival mode mentality. And I did that for years. When I launched the first business, I was absolutely in survival mode. I mean, just, working through the trenches and the hours. I was the driver, the mechanic, the dispatcher, the everything. And then I was the guy that handled the contracts with the state, everything. And then I plugged in my first hire was a forced hire. Because I couldn't drive 2 vehicles, bro.
Absolutely had to. It's like you made this commitment, you signed the contract. I got to find somebody.
I've been able to figure everything out to this point. I just didn't think it through. I can't drive two vans. Yeah. So I had to hire another guy, right? And then I hired the guy, and then I got to do a training protocol for the guy because he doesn't know what he's doing, and I got to teach him. So I started doing.
You had that, and you came from that background with the fire department. I feel like I had an advantage because I worked in retail management for a large company. So we kind of have that to fall back on. I think some of these kids that come in, and they're just coming from Walmart, or I don't know, something where they don't have that structure. I think that's where they really need some coaching and working with somebody like you.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be ways of definitely, right, like sharpening your teeth and in the entrepreneur space. But what I was saying, earlier is we're operating oftentimes at the beginning, we're operating from survival. Sure. Right. And when you're operating from survival, I mean, if I go back and think about like the early days, like shit, man, I'm just all I want to do is get paid. I'm not thinking systems and processes and freedom and all kinds of like all that stuff. And maybe I have it on a board, on a journal somewhere. But it's not the thing that just, pops up in front of me every morning. It's just like, how do I close that deal? How do I get that client? How do I get that lead? And operating from a survival standpoint, like, and what the crazy thing is that we'll rewire our thinking to just think that way. Then next thing you know, I mean, you're no longer in survival mode, meaning that you're generating income, you're doing well, yet your thought process is still captured there. And that's usually when I like on the RA Elite, especially like the higher level program, is I work with a lot of people. We tackle mindset, we tackle systems, we tackle processes. But a lot of it is like, listen, I don't want to let go of all the tasks that I'm doing because I'm still trapped in that survival mode as opposed to that creative mode. Where I can grow and I can empower people and I can create more abundance and more impact with my team if I just let them perform to their strengths. Yeah. Right. So to me, it took me a while. You know what had to happen? I got burned out when I was 26, 27 years old. Like absolutely just fed up. I didn't want to go to work. I was, just, I mean, the how does the saying go? Like the midnight oil or whatever. Yeah.
Burning midnight oil.
Yeah, exactly. So I was doing that all the time. And I got to a point where it was like, dude, it just, the red flag was I didn't want to go to work anymore. Like that's not me. And needless to say, everything else, took an impact.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened for me. I tell people I worked, 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and a half a day on Sunday. Right. Yeah. But that's terrible. It like killed a marriage for me. Like I was so hyper focused on building this. And my thought was like, oh, I'm doing this for them. And I'm, and then you wake up 10 years later and you're like, I don't even know who any of these people, just, it was terrible.
Yeah, it's and that's what I'm getting to, right? Like we create the survival mode, which is a very important tool at the beginning because you're fucking hungry. Nothing's going to stop you. You're just, if it's, wholesaling, you're pounding the phones, you're pounding the streets, you're going out there, you're going to get it, right? Yeah. But after a while, it's unsustainable. It's a hustle is a season. It's not a business strategy. It's not sustainable. And that to me was a very hard lesson because I was still operating under that premise, and I didn't need to be on survival mode anymore. I didn't need to do all that stuff. However, my thought process was still wired like that. And I had to break through that by getting burned out. And pretty much, just the business didn't implode because I had a really, really good friend of mine that was running as director of operations. I mean, he saved my ass, honestly, because it was a period of about 3 months where I was just, checked out from the business. And I don't, what happens in a business when you're the head of the business, you're running everything and you're checked out for 3 months.
Usually goes to shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that happened. And after I came back, it's okay, cool. This is there has to be something that changes. Yeah. And that's when I started rolling into this other, facet of entrepreneurship, I think. And I realized, listen, survival mode is great as a tool. And every now and then we're going to have to pick up that tool and then just, go to town on it. Right. Exactly. It's a skill set that you have in your tool belt, but it can't be the skill set that you're running from, with all the time. We have to delegate.
I agree. I think there are a lot of people where, or I'm thinking like they're kind of going in a circle and they just, everything's working fine. They're hustling their ass off. Me, like I was making, 30, 40 grand a month. Like things were good, but, I was afraid to level up, right? I was afraid to bring in some help and, help with dispo, help with transactions, those types of things. And, I got to the point where I just literally could not do it anymore. I just couldn't work any more hours. I just couldn't keep up with stuff. And I realized I was the reason shit was falling apart, no matter how hard.
It's always our fault. Whether it's good what's happening, what's bad what's happening, it's going to be our fault. The book Who Not How, game changer.
Yeah. How about Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell?
Yeah. Dan Martell's book is, that's a great book as well. But and that, that's what I'm saying about, being able to pick our mentors, man. All we got to do is grab a book. I'm an avid reader. You see, my stack is back there, but I feel like nowadays there's no excuse why not to push for something bigger if that's what you're craving.
Yeah. Nice. So. Raphael, how do people hook up with you to do some coaching? I think there's going to be a lot of people that can really resonate with this and really feel like, hey, maybe I've been stuck in that spot where I'm just sort of circling and, I'm doing okay, but I'm just getting by, but I know there's more. Like I know I can do this. I see these people on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and I see people that are running these businesses and I'm at least as smart as them. How do I do that?
No, absolutely. I'm very active on social. So you can find me on Instagram at Raphael Cortez CEO. I respond to all my DMs. Also, I have a Wholesale 101 webinar. If you go to reiwholesaling.com, you're going to see it on there. It's a free webinar. I'll walk you through the entire process of how to find your next deal in 30 days. So that's one of them. But yeah, I mean, just reach out, send me a message. Check out the podcast too, CEO Pulse, which you're going to be on here in the upcoming weeks. And yeah, I mean, it's I'm an open book.
Right. Well, we'll put links to both of those down in the show notes. And if you're getting this as an email, we'll also make sure that we include it there. Absolutely. You know, for those of you that are watching or listening to this, Raphael's one of, for real, I'm not, you know, not just trying to give him some flowers here, but absolutely one of the leaders in our industry. And we're both in a mastermind, and he's been chosen to, you know, to be on that board of directors because, you know, they recognize what a great job he has done and has a great background and, you know, can bring that, you know, that business acumen and, you know, the business, you know, psychology, I guess, to all of this, operational psychologist. So absolutely a great resource. At the very minimum, you guys should be following him. But if you want to, you know, level up, his program is by far one of the best in the industry.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Always a blast hanging out with you, man.
You too, man. I had such a good time. I'm so glad that we got to do this. Thank you so much. I know we'll be probably jumping on another one of these soon, but I'll see you in person. I guess it's next month or
it's coming up. It's coming up fast.
All right. Awesome. I'll see you then. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, if that did not light a fire under your ass, you're probably already out of business. Raphael just laid out what it takes to scale, the systems, psychology, and the straight up execution. So if you're stuck in hustle mode and want to turn your wholesaling side gig into a real business, this is the guy to follow. Also, head over to easyreiclosings.com if you want real systems, real deals, and real leverage in your business. So if you want to learn directly from Raphael, follow the link in the show notes. His YouTube is a masterclass, and he has coached hundreds of investors to help scale past that solopreneur status. Like, subscribe, and share this with somebody who needs to stop playing small. I'll see you on the next Closers Club.